Hey everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, we'll be tackling the library project as part of the Odin Project. As you can see here, we have our dashboard. We actually used the same dashboard in our previous project, the admin page. As you can see, it actually links up to it. This is the admin page, the one that we built last week. And part of our side menu right here, we have library. So if we click on it, it'll bring up the project that we just worked on. We have all of these cards that have different books, as well as author, amount of pages, and whether we've read the book or not. If you click on if you've read, you'll notice that this banner or border right here turns green. If we unclick it, it turns red again. We can edit any part of the book that we want. So let's say we want to take one of these off, change the amount of pages, and add an exclamation point. Say we've read it. We can see all of those changes go into effect right here. We can delete a card, and we refresh, it stays deleted. We actually use local storage to save data, so it's like a cool little database that you have on your computer. And we can add a new card right here. This brings up the modal. Looks very similar to the edit book one. If you click off, or if you click this close button, it'll close the modal. So we could add another book. So call it new book. Me, 120 pages. We haven't read it. Pops up right there. We click read, then yeah, it'll change. These icons don't do anything. Neither do these buttons or a lot of this stuff on this page, but looks really cool. And then yeah, we could go back to home, see there's that project that we made last time, and then go back to library, and yeah, everything just saved. This new book that we just made, delete it, refresh. If we close this, then we stop the project, open it back up, everything will still be saved on library. So yeah, hopefully you guys can follow along. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys have any questions, and I'll see you guys later. Today we'll be focusing on the library project, which I already went over. We're going to store all of the book objects inside of a simple array. We're going to use a constructor function. Okay, I'm just going to take a quick look at what other people have done. Okay, cool. So yeah, it looks like they're just going to be books that are displayed on a card. It has a author, title, number of pages, and whether we've read it or not. So I think what we can actually do is we go back to the admin page that we just finished right here. We can actually probably use this. We can probably actually use this. We already have a UI set up with cards on it. It would actually be kind of cool just to build on this, where we already have the dashboard and we have that side drawer that it opens. You could refer to this video up here where we did this last project. So yeah, I think we should build onto this, and on that opening drawer on the side, we could just have a link that opens up the library app. And that'll allow us to keep a lot of the same stylings and everything. So if you guys want, you can, what I would recommend is you integrate this with your admin page project that you guys did, or you guys can actually just clone or fork this repo and just follow along with what I'm doing. I'd recommend doing it on your own project because yours is going to be slightly different than mine. But yeah, if you want to clone it, just go to this link right here. I'll put it in the description. Press code right here. You'll probably have to do HTTPS. So you'll copy that, or you can download it as a zip, and we'll bring open a terminal. So let's go into our Odin projects. We're actually going to do library and git clone, paste it in here. Actually going to also open this up in a directory just so that we could rename it. I'm actually just going to take everything out of here. I'm going to cut and then paste it right here. Let's remove this, and we're also going to remove this git file. Okay, so if we ls, we should see all of that there. So let's open this up with code, VS Code. Okay, so if we open this up in our live server, we should see that right here. Just a little bit. So yeah, I'm thinking we just overwrite profile right here, and we just put library, and we could just link that to our library. So in VS Code back up. We're also going to, we're going to need a few more icons. Let's just make what's called a fav icon real quick. So we could do link. It's not a style sheet. Let's remove style sheet. It's going to be icon, and the type is image x icon. Let's just make this home svg. So it's in icons. Now if we save that and open this back up, you should see the little home right there. So now let's remove profile, and we'll link it to the new app or the new project we're building. Let's put that in a folder, call it library. In this folder we'll have index, or we'll just call it library.html. And for now, let's just put a div library. So in index.html, if we go down to profile, let's remove this and put library. And we're going to need a new SVG. Keep it this for now. Let's make this an anchor tag. And this will be, it's going to be /library. So click on library, it should take us back here. So we're going to want to keep most of the same layout. So we're going to actually just copy and paste this entire page. And actually, we actually need to make this home an anchor tag as well. This will be href. It's going to do a / now. So we're going to hold Control A, Control C, and we'll just paste over all of it. Now, if we click on library, it'll take us here. If you'll notice, none of our styles got copied over. So in our library.html, let's make sure that these are linking to the right place. So we do .. and .. Okay, something's slightly off right here. Oh, now it's working. Okay. So now we could tell by the URL that we're in the library, and we're back. We're going to change a few things on the library. Let's go all the way down. Get rid of announcements and the trending section. Okay, we're also going to get rid of all of these cards. I don't want to delete everything. I don't want to delete the class, but just everything inside of the class. And this will be your books. Okay, and this, we need to get a different SVG. Let's get like a book SVG or something. Who's this? So code view SVG, download SVG and move that icons. So in index and in library, let's just change this icon to book open. Let's also change the fav icon to the. Okay, if we save that, go back to our app, and if we're on library, see the fav icons like that. We do need to go change the color to white. Look open. Scroll over to where it says path. Say fill equal to white. Cool. Okay. Currently we don't have any books in here. I'm thinking we should also save the books to local storage. That way if we refresh the page or close the browser or something, back up. Scroll all the way down. Let's create a index file or main.js. And we're also going to want separate stylings for this as well. So let's do library styles.css. So let's link to both of those. So we can do script, source is main.js. And at the very top below this one, do link library styles.css. We're also going to just change this class to books. Well, we might even get rid of cards. Let's get rid of cards, just have books. Okay. So let's go const books is equal to document query selector dot books. Const my library is equal to an empty array. And one more thing I always like to do is create a prettier file. Just so it'll format our stylings for us. Let's make a function called render books. My library.map. We're going to have a book. In the book, we'll have an index. And we're going to grab the books. And we're going to append. We're probably going to want another function for this as well. Let's create a function called create book item with the book and we'll do that right here. Function create book item. Okay, so let's go const book item is equal to document dot create element, and let's just create a div. We're going to want to set an ID, so let's do book item dot set attribute ID, and we'll just set this to the index. Let's copy this and also do key is equal to the index. Let's set a class on it. So book item dot set attribute class, and we'll give it card, and then we're going to want to add the author, the title, pages, and whether we've read it or not. We don't have any books in here, as you can see, but let's just create a a couple until we hook up local storage and everything. So book one, we'll just have title, book one, author, me, pages, 500, read through. And let's just copy this one more time. Comma. Book 2. U. 5,000. False. We'll still have all of our books. Okay, now we need to do, we need to create, like the author title. So I'm actually going to create one more function. It's going to be function, let's do like create book element. This will take in the element and content and class name. So let's go const element equal to document create element, and this will just be element. So we want to create an h1, h2, a div, whatever we pass into here, we can create that dynamically. Let's set the element. We need to change this name. I'm gonna call this L because we don't want to have the same or a variable with the same name. Let's do text content equal to content and element dot set attribute class name. So we need to do book item. And we actually need to return. Can't forget that step. So let's do book item dot append child. I think we should just be able to do create book element. So this will be book dot have the title first, or no, we need make an h1, and then this will be title, and let's call this book class. I also think we should just make this a yeah, let's make this a template string literal. So go like this, this. Okay. We don't see anything yet. That's because we're not appending this to books. Let's just copy this for this will be author. Books dot insert adjacent element. We're going to do after begin, and this will be book item. Yeah, I don't think we'll see anything yet still. We're on the right one because we're actually not calling any of these functions. So we need to call render books like this. Now we should see those. Perfect, right there. So they look terrible. They're also wrong spot. Like your books should be above our cards. Let's go back to library. I don't think we need this page anymore, so let's close that. Yeah, this needs to be above the Okay. We have 2 divs with books, so let's get rid of this one. Yeah, we need to apply some different stylings then to these, but they're at least showing up. Book 2 is showing up before book 1. We also don't have whether the book's read or not yet, but I think there's a few more things we want to add to the card as well, like a delete button, top right corner, as well as the ability to edit it. Now that we've rendered out the title, author, and pages, let's create an element to determine whether we've read the page or not, whether we've read the book or not. If we look back at our dashboard, we can see we have this yellow strip or orange strip right here. What I think would be cool to determine whether we've read the book or not is have this be red or green, whether we've read or not read the book, as well as just having a toggle and clicking it change whether we've read the book or not. After we set up the final things that we want on the card, we can start to mess with the CSS to make this look a lot better. So go back to our project, and before we add the book item to the books, let's create let's do book item pen child. We're gonna actually do another function. It's going to be create. Let's do create red element. Once again, let's pass the book item, and also pass the book. So let's create that right here. Function create book element, book item, book, do const red is equal to document dot create element. Let's do another div red dot set attribute class would be book red. Let's do red dot append child. Let's do create book element. It'll be an H1. We could put red and give it book red title. Then let's create, so we want an input. Let's just do like a checkbox. That'll be the toggle. So we could do const input equal to document dot create element input, and we'll do input dot type is equal to, I think it's checkbox, and then we'll do input dot add event listener, and I think we should just do click. We're gonna fire a function. So we could say if e.target.checked, then we want to do book item set attribute class. Let's do red check, and then we're going to set book dot red is equal to true, and then we need to render books. The reason why we have to render books again is because we're going to want to change that class. So I don't know if we need to render the books again. Not sure. Let's leave it in for now. I'm not sure if we'll need that. Else, we're going to do book item dot set attribute class. And this is going to be read, not checked. Book.read, book to false, and book. Okay, we're going to do one more check right here. If book.read, and we're going to set input.checked is equal to true. And we can do book item dot set attribute class, and this will be read. It actually needs to be outside of the event listener. Move it right here. We're going to do read dot append child input and return read. Okay. Hopefully we see that. Okay, we have a memory leak somewhere. Okay, it's because we're recursively calling this function right now. We need to reference create book function instead. That should solve that. Perfect. Okay, so if this one has different class than this one, once we check it, the class changes. Okay, so this one still has the class card book, which is going to pull styles from like our original project, and this one has a class of read checked, so it's going to pull, not going to look at these classes. I think what we need to do is we're overriding these two classes if the book is read or if it's not read. So we actually just need to rewrite these classes on top of it. Okay, so regardless of whether it's checked or not, it will still have the same class. We do need to work on the styling for that border if read or not, but we can work on that in a bit. Okay, what else do we want? We want, let's make it like a delete button up here in the top right, as well as an edit button. We could put that here in the top right as well. Actually, also kind of like these icons. So we could actually create these icons, even if they don't do anything. We could just, we can put them on the card as well because it kind of looks cool. Go back to our library. Okay, the next thing then, let's create the delete button. I think we can actually do that with our create book element. So let's do book item, append child, do create book element, and create a button. Just do an X and class of delete. I think that, yeah, this is just down here. We can actually use CSS in just a second to move it up to the top right. But before we do that, let's create a SVG of the edit icon. I think we'll just go with like a pencil for that. Let's grab that real quick. I like this one a lot. Let's grab that SVG. Okay. So let's create a function that we could just knock out all of our icons in one function. So let's do book item append child to create icons. We're gonna have to put I don't actually think we need to pass anything in. Do we? We might need the book. Just because if we want to edit it, we need to know. Yeah, we need to know what the elements on the book are. So create that up here. Function create icons. Take the book. Let's do the create edit icon and the create icons in in two different functions. Let's do create edit icon, and then create icons. So create icons. Let's not put the book in there, but we can do. Okay, let's do this one first. I think this one will be easy. So we can do const div is equal to document dot create element div. Actually, instead of that, what if we do create book element? Yeah. Pass in the div. We're just going to pass in null and pass in icons. The reason why I want to use this function is because, yeah, we can just add a class on, and this will just be one line of code instead of 2 lines of code. Let's do const icon 1 equal to document dot create element. That's going to be an image, and let's do icon 1 dot source equal to icon star plus outline dot sg. We're just going to copy this. More times. We can make a function that does this, but I don't. Yeah, icon 2, icon 3, icon 2, icon 3. So this one would be then we'd have to do a div pen child icon 1. I'm gonna copy this, and this will be 2 and 3, and then let's just return div. Okay, so we should see those icons on the card, which we don't. So yeah, it was throwing an error because we weren't creating a div or a node, an HTML node with this line right here. As you can see, we have those icons and they are working. So let's do the last one, which is create edit icon. I'm gonna delete this. Let's do const edit icon equal to document dot create element. It's going to be an edit icon dot source equal to call it pencil dot svg. So icons pencil dot svg. Let's do edit icon dot set attribute class. Call it edit icon, and then we're gonna have to add an event listener to. We don't have the function yet or the ability to like have a form that we can edit with, but let's just add the event listener right now. So add event listener, click. It's just console.log book now. And we're going to return it. I'm just going to comment some of my code real quick just so you understand what's going on. So books. Cool. Hopefully we don't need any more icons, and yeah, the project's coming along quite well. I think the next thing for us to do is just work on some of the CSS to make this look a lot better. Cool. There's all of the CSS styles that we've applied so far. In post, I might cut all this out. Yeah, I would just recommend going to the GitHub repository and copying these if you want to use the same ones that I did. But yeah, this is what the project looks like so far. So they should be responsive. And okay, so the next thing it looks like we might need to do is anytime we render the new books, we want to clear the page. Go back to our main one and just do books.text content. So anytime we render books, perfect. Doesn't render a bajillion books. Our next steps are to add functionality to the delete button. And then we want to be able to add a new book. We could actually probably just hook up functionality to this button right here. And then we will add the ability to edit the book afterwards. I'm thinking for adding a book, we can use like a modal. So it'll just be like a form that pops up. If you click outside of the form, then it'll close the form. Yeah, it'll be pretty sweet. I think this guy right here, he's using a modal on his ad book. So it'll just be like this, thinking similar idea. Okay, so for the delete, let's go down here. We can do we can grab book item query selector. This will be delete. We can just add event listener here. I think this will work. Let's just make a function called delete book with, and we can just pass the index in. So we'll make a function right here. And we can do my library. We'll use a method on an array method called splice. And we just do index 1. And we're gonna have to render books again. So let's see if that works. Sweet, I think that works. Let's refresh. So we're deleting book 2 and book 1. Test book 1 first, and cool, that works. These aren't hooked up to local storage yet. We're going to want to do that before we start adding books. Call it function add local storage. We're going to set my library equal to json.parse local storage dot get item, call it library. Or library will be just an empty array if we can't grab anything from local storage, and then we'll render book. We're not calling this yet. We don't need this anymore. We could just call what did we call it? Add local storage. Before we do that the very first time, let's comment this out. So let's set local storage to first. So let's do local storage dot set item library, and this will be JSON dot stringify. I think this will work. And actually, I'll comment this out. I don't know. Let's see. Hopefully this works. It doesn't work. Let's change this to let. Let's put this inside of an array. Okay, cool. We see both books here now. So those are both in local storage. We can actually get rid of this guy for now. This might not make a ton of sense why I'm doing this. So JSON is just JavaScript object notation. So it just makes it so if you're sending data to or from a server, it's a lot easier to read. Stringify just makes it like converts it all into a string. So yeah, it's just, you know, a variable with a type of string. That makes it so when we save this to local storage, it is just one string. And then when we're grabbing it from local storage, we're parsing it. So JSON.parse, and then we're grabbing whatever we're saving to local storage. That'll convert it from the string into the normal array that we see here. What we're setting in local storage, let me just show you real quick. So local storage, how it works is you save things in key value pairs. So we have our key, which is library. And then what are we saving to that? We're saving like my library. And we're stringifying that, so it's just like we're just saving one thing to library. If you wanted, you wouldn't be able to save more than like one value to library. So that's why we want to make sure we stringify it. Probably doesn't make a ton of sense, but there's some good documentation on like Mozilla or MDN. So I'd recommend checking those out if this doesn't make a ton of sense. But we'll be saving stuff to local storage a little bit later on. So I'm just going to delete this for now. I'm going to want to do that in a different place. Like this is what we want to do just initially on page load. So I get rid of this. Should see those guys show back up. Perfect. Now if I delete and refresh, like it shows back up because we're not saving to local storage, which is actually what we want to do. Let's create a function that'll do that for us. So do function, let's call it save and render books. So we're going to do that same thing, local storage.set item library, and it's going to be JSON.stringify my library, and then we're going to want to render books. So anytime that we're calling the render books function, we actually are going to want to replace it with save and render. So you actually just do a quick search for that. Render books, so right here. We don't want to replace all of them, but we do want to replace quite a few of them. This one, yep. This one, yep. This one, yep. Oh, no. Okay. Now if we save and go back, once we delete this and refresh, like, it shouldn't show up anymore. Okay, as we can see, yeah, like it's no longer in local storage. If we go back to our library, it's gone, deleted. So it's like a cool little database that you have on your computer. So now the next thing we need to do is just be able to add books to our library. Now we're just down to one book, unfortunately. So we're going to go into our library.html again, and we're just going to add a modal that will have just that form that we can use. So well, let's go below the main content, and let's set a div with a class of modal. Set an ID of modal as well. Okay. We'll have a div with a class of modal content, and inside of here, let's have a span with a class of close. This will just be an X as well, I think. Then let's do a div class of modal form, and we could have h1. Let's actually give it a class of form title. This will be like add book. Okay, before that, or below that, let's do a form, the class of add book form. Don't need an action. Okay, we're going to want to ask what's the title, what's the author, how many pages, whether we've read the book or not, and then a button at the bottom to add the book. Let's put all of these inside of a class like modal. Input field, do like label will be for book title, then this will be an input class of modal form input. This will be a text. We need to put a name of book title. Let's do an ID title. Perfect. So we're going to copy and paste this for pages and author. So find everywhere we find our writing title. Let's change it to author. So the keyboard shortcut I just used there is if you like select a word, press, it could be anything, it could even be like quotations, and you press D, it'll select and highlight the next occurrences of those. So if I deleted right now, it would delete all of those, or if I do like modal, like it'll delete that whole word. So Control D or Command D. So that author, perfect. So this should be, this will be a number. Set a minimum, not 0. Okay, we need to know whether the book's been read or not. So let's do another one of these input fields. We're going to change, let's do a span right here. Span, we'll do red. Give this a class of modal red. Then we're gonna set a label. This. Let's put. This is gonna look weird, but let's put all this inside of the label. And let's give this a class of. And this input. Let's do class of check box. Name. Book red. Change both of those. And the class, let's give this a class of check. Do div with class of submit. Modal form. Button type is going to be submit. I think that's the default option, but do class btn form add button. I don't see that anymore. Weird. Let's start doing the CSS for this, and hopefully it shows up. Okay, got all the styles in. Once again, probably cut this out, so just refer to GitHub repository if you want it. All the stylings that I applied. Did find a lot of these stylings on websites like Mozilla and stuff, just for the modal. So this is what the modal looks like. There's no like event listeners or anything, and you notice like this button doesn't have any text. I also changed the X to and times semicolon, and that gives us this little X that I think looks a little better. So the reason why I don't have the reason why I don't have any text in this button, I'll show you in just a second. We want to use the same modal if we're editing a book or adding a book. So I need to also actually remove this text. And depending on whether we're selecting new book or edit book, we will change what this says and what the button says. So remove the text here. And I'm also, if you guys copied this from my repository, this actually has to be set to none. We don't want the modal displayed unless we click on the new button, which is right here. Let's add an event listener to that. So let's do add book. So grab this in our main.js. Let's do, we need to grab the modal. Const modal. Let's grab the ID of modal. I think that's that. Gave it. Yep. Okay, so let's do modal dot style display equal to block, and we can grab the document dot query selector form title. And the button is form add button. So we can, this dot text content is equal to add book. We're going to copy this line, form add button. I think that's what it is. Yep. We're just going to do add. So perfect. Okay, we need to add an event listener to this as well as if we just click off of the modal. So let's do that next. Let's do const span is equal to document dot query selector dot close. Make sure that's the right one. Yep. Okay, let's do span dot add event listener. Click. We're gonna grab the modal dot style dot display equal to none. Perfect. Now if we click here, it just goes perfect. And let's also, just make it so if we click off of the modal, then it'll close. We can do that by, we do window.onClick. You can actually check. We do window.addEventListener, click. And we'll grab E. We can say if E.target is equal to modal, then we can set modal.style display equal to none. Just check if that works. Click off of it's fine. We click on it, then let's add an event listener to the form now to add a book if we fill out the form. We called this add book form, I think. Let's double check. Yep. So if we submit, then we might need E. Just grab E just in case. Yeah, because we want to prevent the default action. So let's do const data is equal to new form data of E.target. So what this will do is it'll grab all of the form attributes, like all of the inputs, and it'll convert it into an object for us. So let's create a temporary object called new book. It's going to be an empty object right now. And then we can do for let name value of data. Okay, so what we're doing here is, this gives us an object, and inside of that object we can grab the name and the value of each value pair. So it'll destructure it into these two things for us. So now we can say if name is equal to book read, we're going to want to ignore it. So else we might need to add something here. The reason why I'm doing this is because this is going to be a checkbox. So if they don't click book.read, it's actually not even going to show it as being true or checked. Otherwise, let's do new book name is equal to value, or they didn't fill out anything. Let's just do an empty string. Okay, once we loop through everything, let's do if we don't have new book of book read, then do new book of book read is equal to true. Oh, sorry, false. So actually right here, we need to set this to true, because since this is a checkbox, it's actually going to get us like checked. So we just want to set it to true or false. That's why we're going to do this. If they do not check it, then it's not going to show up in data. So we just need to check if we don't have book.read in our new book object, then we'll set it to false. Now let's create an object, or sorry, let's create a function called add book to library. This will take in the title, author, pages, and read, and we can do my library.push. I'm gonna go new book of title, author, pages, read, and we'll do render and save books. And we don't have a factory function for book yet, so I could say function book. This will also take in title, author, pages, read. And it'll say this dot author equal to author. This needs this dot title equal to title. Let's move this up here. This dot pages is equal to pages, and this dot read is equal to read. Also just create an ID on it. I don't know if we'll need the ID or not, but just create it just in case. Let's do math.for math.random times it by like a very large number. I think this should work. Please work. It didn't work. Add button should. The reason why it's not working is because I haven't finished the form logic. So we need to do add book to library. So we need to do the title first. This will be new book of book title. Copy this and 2 times. Okay, this will be read. This will be pages and the author. Cool. There it is. We refresh, it's still there. Okay, so yep, added to local storage. The thing I did notice is that the form, after we press to add, form doesn't close. We could also add some like validation to the form, but we're not going to worry about that. If you guys want to add validation, that's a good idea. I'm not going to worry about it. So let's add, let's close the modal. If once we fill out the form, copy this. Let's reset the form as well. Let's do add book form.reset. Perfect. Yeah, I think really the last thing that we need to do, need to fix the CSS a little bit on our nav bar up here, and we need to add functionality to this edit button, and we're done at that point. Right here, create edit icon. So we have an event listener. We aren't doing anything with it yet. So let's create a function called fill out edit form. We'll take in the book, and we can set the modal dot style dot display is equal to block, and we're going to want to grab a whole bunch of things on this, like the form title. So we can set document query selector text content equal to edit book. Copy this for button. So I think we left it form add book, technical add button. Do document query selector. I think we named these inputs an ID. Cool. Grab book title, found, and this will be value equal to book.title for an empty string. This will be author, pages, and this will be red. Instead of value, it'll be checked equal to book.red, and this will always be true or false. Just leave this. So let's really hope this works. Doesn't. Need to make sure we call this function. Fill out edit form with book. Is that accurate? I think that's. We have 5 books right now. Now we have 6. Okay, so something's not working. We're getting an extra book every time I call this function. Yeah, which makes me think. So when we're calling, the function, we're opening the modal, and it's just going to keep the old card, but then it's just going to add a new card with the new data that we have. So we just need to check if we're editing the book. We want to make sure that we don't create a new card. We just edit the old one. We also should just set the ID of these cards here as well. So let's grab this will be add book form. Set attribute. Let's set the ID equal to the book.id. And I think this should all have one. I'm going to delete everything real quick. At this point, they should have one. So we could make it, we could put a check inside of right here on submit. Like if it has an ID, that means we're, or better yet, let's do if document dot query selector. This is kind of a hacky way to do this, but we grab the form title. Text content is equal to edit book. That means we're editing the book. Else we want to add it to the library. In any case, we're going to want to make sure we reset it and set the display to none. Okay, so in this case, if we're editing the book, we want to set the ID. So we're going to want to filter the library to where we have that ID. So we can say let edit book equal to my library dot filter item book where book.id is equal to ID. And then we're just going to want to grab the first element. This is going to, the filter will give us an array. We just want to make sure we grab the object, which will be the first object. So we could say edit book dot title is equal to new book title. Copy this. Okay, I don't know what that is. We want one. Okay, so this should be author. This should be pages. This should be red. And then we also want to render the books right here. So render or save and render books. Cool, that worked that time. Now if we edit this one, okay, that didn't work. Found the problem. I was assigning book.id to ID. Probably caught that before I did, so after hours of debugging, clear these out and let's try that again. Edit this one. Just edits that one. Perfect.